Welcome to the Lift and Make Lighter podcast. I'm Andrea Beckstrom and I'm the medical director at LÉVO, and LÉVO is sponsoring this podcast. We're here with Mike Ruoho from Arcadia Counseling.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here,
Thanks
Mike.
for having us.
And he is the clinical director over the Utah County offices, which are in Linden and Lehigh.
Yes.
And then they have another office in Sandy that has another clinical director, but such a great group that we have
Thank you.
worked with and collaborated with. Which
Yeah, I've been here 3 years, and man, I just feel like I hit the jackpot when I found Arcadia. Seriously, it's been great. I was in residential treatment for 35 years, and
with who, Mike? Where were you?
I was with Westridge Academy for 27 years, and left there and went to the Utah Trauma and Addiction Center. And was their clinical director there. I was with the girls program, and the clinical director at Westridge, and then went to the trauma center, Utah Trauma and Addiction Center, and was the clinical director there for 10 years. And just, after about 37 years, I was just done with residential treatment.
Yeah.
And I had started my own private practice on the side, doing just outpatient stuff, and I'm like, these people are cupcakes. You come in, deal with them, and their issues, and then I'll see you in 2 weeks or a week, and there's none of the other stuff that comes with residential treatment. And then I came across Arcadia, and boy, it's just been wonderful. So yeah, I feel like you hit the lottery.
They're lucky to have you, because that experience is so valuable. And it is, you're right, it's a different set of skills and clients. Yeah,
I think, everything that I did in residential treatment and all the training, because the trauma center really got me into the pornography addiction and the trainings that I needed to do there. It just feels like everything that I've been through set me up for where we're at today.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
And I did want to kind of go back, because what you do as a therapist and the areas that you work with, the specialties are not easy. So kind of go back to what got you interested at the beginning of even going into therapy.
That's a great question. On the side of that, I spent 22 years as an adjunct therapist for the University of Utah for their graduate social work program. Mm-hmm. So I was a field instructor, right? And I would tell the interns, your specialty will find you. They come in and, hey, I want to work in this area, or I want to work in this area. I obviously wanted to do substance abuse because of my history, and my father died when I was 10 from alcoholism, and so that was an interest that I had, and I just thought, okay, substance abuse, and got into counseling. Wanted to be a flight attendant, and not a flight attendant, a pilot, and then or an architect, and that was too much math. My brain just doesn't do math. Mm-hmm. And so I found counseling, and I thought, well, that's me. And so started doing substance abuse, went through the University of Utah substance abuse program in '89 and got their certificate, and started as a SUDSI counselor, and then went and got my master's, and I just thought I would stay there. And all of a sudden I started dealing with kids that had pornography issues, and then I started dealing with sexual trauma, and people that had been molested, and it just found me, and I saw how trauma just devastated people, and the need we got to heal the trauma, and the only way to heal the trauma is go deep. Yeah. We can't do surface work, and came across the EMDR and got certified and trained in the EMDR, and then the Utah Addiction and Trauma Center, sent me to the CSAT program, which is a certified sex and trauma abuse therapist through the International Institute of Addictions and Trauma Therapists, and so I spent 2 years getting my CSAT, and all those things just kind of have helped me understand not just pornography but betrayal trauma, that both sides, working with partners, mm-hmm. as well as working with addicts, and with AI and everything that's coming down in AI, and the access to pornography for our kids, on the phone, and now what you can do with AI, create your own porn, and things like that. It is a dumpster fire that is here. It's not coming. It's here. And so it just found me. And I just developed my passion around it, and here I am.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for sharing about your own experience and childhood and that hard thing that you dealt with. But I do love the quote that we're best equipped to help others when we've come from that place.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a fine line there. You don't have to jump off a diving board into an empty swimming pool to know it's going to hurt, right? And I think in the field of addiction, a field of recovery, sometimes we think, well, if they haven't been there, they don't understand. And I don't think that that's necessarily always true, but it's certainly being able to have that compassion, be able to know, okay, I know what that pain feels like. And I can sit with you in it, and I can hold that space for you.
Yeah, that feels so good to clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
To feel that.
People want to be seen, and I think honestly, Andrea, we're in a world where people don't feel seen, and so many people come into my office and they just want to be seen, and they're hurting, and part of that hurting is I'll mask it with pornography. Or I'll mask it with other negative behaviors. There's a statement that says, all maladaptive behavior is the result of unmet need.
I love that you say that, because I love talking in those coping skills, if either they be adaptive or maladaptive. They do help, regardless of how many things can go negatively with some of the behaviors, but they are a bridge, to help people get somewhere. But I like how you talk and say that they're maladaptive. There are definitely ones that help us thrive more than not.
I certainly developed maladaptive behaviors after my dad died. My mom became emotionally unavailable because she was grieving and had to work and was outside of the house. And so, I developed my maladaptive behaviors, and that was porn.
Yeah.
And, and no matter how unloved I felt, well, Miss July was always there to love me.
Yeah.
But that was the lie and the maladaptive behavior. And it wasn't until I realized, okay, I got a problem. I gotta fix this, and I gotta look at it. And then when you start to find healthy behaviors and cope in healthy ways, you start to shed those maladaptive behaviors, and you start to understand them. But the barriers, the shame, the belief that, I'm a horrible person, this defines me. Anybody out there listening to the podcast now that has a problem with pornography, I'm here to tell you it doesn't define you. I promise you it doesn't define you. It feels like it does, but it doesn't. It's just a choice. If we don't like the choices we make, what do? We just learn to make better choices. It's that simple.
Yep. You have to do it, but you can.
Yep.
It's possible.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing, because I think that's really helpful to a lot of people listening. I think a lot of people don't know where to go, and there's so much shame involved. If it be from disappointing family or religious beliefs or whatever it be, they just feel terrible. So I love the quote. It's from a psychiatrist that specializes in ADHD, actually, but he says, never worry alone. So if you're in that place where you're worried, what do I do? How do I get out of this? Tell someone. And I know that's easier said than done. So since you were vulnerable and could share your part of your story, what made you finally want to change, and how did you do that? Because that might help someone listening.
Well, I think for me it was just, I knew that there was something better.
How old were you?
When I started looking at porn?
No, well, yes, and then when you decided, you know what? There's something different than this.
When I started looking at porn, I was 5. My dad had it delivered to the house in the mail, and it came in a cardboard cover. Well, I knew what to look for. It came at the first of the month. My dad thought it came at the middle of the month. I'd take it out, go look at it, take it to school, charge 25 cents. I was a little entrepreneur for my buddies to look at it. Put it back in. The little cardboard cover, put it back in the thing. And so so I started looking at it at 5, and I had all these emotions and feelings, but I didn't know what to do with it, right? And you know, and struggled with it up until it was time for me to serve a mission for my church. And I wanted to go on a mission for my church, and so, you know, it was, you know, stop. I was like, okay, I could do that. Stopped for 2 years, came back, and, you know, got back into it. And then I met the love of my life, and I thought she deserves better. And so that's where, and then I was in graduate school and started doing therapy, and I thought, you know, I can't just tell people what they need to do if I'm not willing to do it. And you know, and so my philosophy has always been, like, I can't ask any of my therapists to do something if I'm not doing, even if it comes to EMDR. I do EMDR because I need to know what that experience is. And so I just started my own healing and my own therapy and figured a lot of things out, and recognized that recovery is awesome. It's wonderful, and it's okay to slip and fall. And in the recovery world, you know, we get asked the question about relapse, you know, and what happens with relapse? What happens if you stumble and fall? And it's okay. People get mad at me, especially partners or families, when I say this is a disease of relapse. They're going to relapse. You just gave them a free pass to relapse. No, I didn't. That's their choice. Yeah. But it's going to happen. What do we do with that relapse? Do we learn from it and grow and pick ourselves up and go, okay? Or, you know, or do we not? And it's a process, digging deeper, and it's a process. And so when relapse happens, hey, okay, it's part of it. Let's not beat yourself up. Let's not go down shame lane and build a house. Feel bad, whatever you got to do. Then let's look at it and learn from it, because it's a part of recovery, whether we want to agree with it or not, but it doesn't define us. And we live in such a perfectionistic world, and when and the shame that comes with pornography is so deep. And what do we think? You know, Brene Brown does a really good job of talking about perfectionism. And we think that the antidote to shame is I have to be perfect. And that's impossible in recovery. And so we think we have to be perfect, and we can't relapse. And in the pornography world, what we call it sexual anorexia. I relapse, so now I have to shut all my feelings off about sex, all my thoughts, everything off about sex, and I have to become anorexic. Well, we're human beings.
Right.
Having thoughts and cravings and those feelings are normal. We just need to keep them in healthy boundaries.
Right.
Okay? But when we go sexually anorexic, we can only go so far before it's like, great, and then we go binge. And then we get feeling guilty, we get shamed, we go into a church leader or whatever, and they say, okay, you know, here's the consequences, don't have these thoughts, don't do this, don't do this. Okay, so you tell me I gotta be sexually anorexic. Yep, okay, we go back over here for 2 weeks, you know, we're sexually anorexic, I'm doing it, okay.
But it's that when you say you can't have that, right? When we tell our mind, you can't have that.
Right.
It obviously, even with food, I work a lot with disordered eating and eating disorders. When you say that is off limits, it is going to cause a binge. That is
Absolutely.
The number one reason.
There's a technique that we call face, replace, and connect. And face replaces, okay, here's my craving, whether it's food, pornography, you know, taking a drink, whatever. Here's my craving. Okay, I'm going to acknowledge, yeah, I have a craving. That's human. Okay, now the choice is, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to go down the recovery path, or am I going to go down the acting out, the maladaptive behavior path? Right. And what are we going to connect to? And so teaching the face replace concept is important, because it's okay if, man, I just got triggered. Okay, what am I going to do with it?
And those triggers are going to happen all the time.
Absolutely, it's normal.
What we do with it.
It amazes me how many people come in and think that, okay, I got to get to a point where I never have another trigger I never have another craving about anything. It's like, this isn't resistance work. This is resiliency. And it's normal to have that. And I see a lot of people end up relapsing, in my opinion, is because they think, okay, the cravings are gone. I haven't had a craving. I haven't had, an issue for a long time. So I'm good. And then they get hit with that craving storm.
Yeah.
And they just fall to pieces. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of misinformation that part of our therapy in helping them overcome is what to expect and to give themselves a little bit of grace.
Yeah, I love that. And I love not only letting the client know what to expect, but the family. Because as you said, then the family or the spouse or significant other, they really lose it when there are those relapses that are to be expected.
Yeah.
So I love your background because I have a background in substance use as well. That was what I was first thrown into when I started, and I thought, why in the world did they throw this naive, just graduated PMHNP into treating these issues, and I'm so grateful because it really opened my eyes and helped me have a lot of compassion for that. So there's so much to circle back on with what you just said. I love all of that.
Thank you.
One thing that I've had people ask a lot is how to talk to our kids about pornography without the shame piece, but still letting them know the dangers.
Yeah.
Because I love that you brought up that young, and I've heard it's not if, it's when.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's all around us, and just as you said, it's even more so with people with phones in their bedrooms.
Yeah. AI,
I mean, it's getting worse, I would say.
Yeah. It's such a great question. It's interesting you say it because just yesterday I had a couple I was working with, and he's recovering from pornography, and they have a 5-year-old daughter that, they were talking about addiction one day at home, and their daughter came in and said, "What's addiction?" And he was like, "We're not talking about that right now. But you're too young to understand that." And and his wife was like, "No, we need to talk about that. She's going to go get that answer somewhere." And they didn't know how to answer that, and so they came in and said, "Well, what do we do?" And I says, "You absolutely need to answer that question at her level, all right?" And it's just, you can just look at her and say, "It's just excess. Daddy's eating 2 candy bars instead of 1." So whatever that case may be. But he was so afraid to talk about that stuff because of his own issues. And so the best thing that parents can do is recognize we are born sexual beings.
Yeah. It's a natural, normal drive.
Right. The biggest sex organ in the body is the brain. We are born sexual beings, and we're born with our equipment. And we're going to be a part of that. And it's helping them learn that it's not dirty, that it's okay, that those feelings that, that we can have that. And so I think we have to overcome some real cultural issues that, sex is dirty. And I can't tell you how many times I've had a young married couple that has just gotten off their honeymoon in my office because one of them, went on a honeymoon and it's like, we're in trouble. And it's like, sex is horrible. I've been told sex is this and this and this all my life. And then a marriage ceremony makes it okay. And I feel dirty. I feel horrible. And the other partner's sitting there going, I just ruined my partner. And to reframe it and to re-educate it. So we need to have parents talk about it's okay, and that pornography is misinformation. Pornography doesn't teach healthy sexuality. It teaches unhealthy sexuality. There's nothing about pornography that is healthy. I have I've had a former client she was in the pornography business, and she was working with me a number of years ago just to kind of overcome her trauma, and as she got out of that business. And one of the things she said is, it is so scripted that if men knew just how scripted pornography is and what we have to go there would be nothing arousing about it. Because they're playing to the brain, right? So we have to normalize, we have to talk about it. Yeah, pornography is dangerous because it's such misinformation, and it creates such a dopamine hit and all those kind of things. But if our children get into it and we panic and go, oh no, this is terrible, our children are going to go, okay, this is terrible.
Yeah. Or don't talk about it like that.
And they're not going to talk to us, and we need to talk to them about it. Hey, tell me how you got exposed to it. What were you feeling? Oh, wow, I felt this feeling in here that I kind of liked. Yeah, that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
You're just kind of waking those feelings up a little early, right? And to be able to talk about it, and okay, let's put some boundaries here, and let's talk about this, and be okay with it. So it's just having a dialogue, but we have to look at our own biases, and how do our biases, how we grew up,
how we
or
were taught.
cultural biases that come into play, that come in and affect that, and then we just perpetuate that cycle that we can't talk about.
Yeah, and I love that you said that. We have to be okay with how we're feeling about it. We also, I think, as parents, need to be a safe place.
Oh, 100%.
Right? If we're getting mad, I mean, this just goes back to basics of how do you handle when a child comes with something difficult to talk about? Are you going off? Are you flying off the handle, going off the rail, because they're not going to feel safe? So then, when something comes up that is something that should be talked about, they need a calm place to land.
A great example of that is a couple of years ago, I was working with a teenage gal that had been molested, and we were doing a lot of trauma work, and she was healing. She was doing really well, and was healing, was happy, was just doing good work, and she wanted to tell her mother about her progress. And so we brought her mom in, and she told her mother, she looked at her mom and she goes, I want you to know, Mom, I am really healing from what happened to me, and that healing is possible. And I feel like I'm getting my life back. And her mom looked at her and said, that is not true. You can't heal from this. Wow. And I looked at the mother and just went, you just ruined 4 months of therapy. Her own biases that came from her own unresolved issues. She downloaded onto her daughter saying, nope, you don't heal from this. So I don't know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, but no, it's not true. You can't. And I just remember seeing how deflated her poor daughter was of, so I need to stay sick.
I love that you say that, because there's a chance with all of us, if we've grown up with certain things, right? Everyone has hard things that happen, to break the cycle.
Absolutely.
So how do you get someone to buy into that? One question I get all the time is, how I can't do that. I can't go, talk to someone and tell them all this hard stuff. So what would you say to someone that's thinking about it but doesn't dare take the step? I think that's the hardest part.
It's scary.
One of them, yes.
It's scary. In the betrayal trauma group for women that I run, we address that. On the first night, we just go around and it's like, hey, share as much as your story as you feel comfortable. And I hear a lot, whether it's in this group or with just people coming in. I don't want to go visit that. I want to talk about that stuff. And I explained to them that the problem is not the memory. Yeah, thinking about it and reliving that stuff is painful, but the problem is not the memory. The problem is the pain associated with the memory. In talking about it and in the work that we're going to do, we're going to address the pain so that the pain goes away. And then you're just left with a memory. That's it. I can talk about my childhood and the crappy things that went on after my dad died. I had a very, very abusive brother. And I can talk about that, and there's no discomfort anymore. It's just my story. It's just my story. And when people hear that, they look at me and they're, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm more than okay. I'm great. It's just my story. Why? Because the pain's gone. The memories are just left. And in trauma work, you know, and you know, and any kind of shame work, whether it's I have such pain about what I've done with pornography or things like that. Great, let's talk about it. But let's deal with the pain that's connected to it. And it just becomes your story. That's it. Yeah. And it's a story of resilience. It's a story of healing. It's a story of strength. And then your story can be told to others that says, you can do that. And so that's what we do. We just deal with the pain. But the pain is so painful that people want to come in and avoid the pain. You're telling me, if I had a nickel for every time I have somebody say, what good is this going to do to come in and tell you, you know, what happened to me? What good is it going to do? It's going to do a lot of good. So trust me on it. Let's deal with the pain. And dealing with the pain is just, yeah, how does that feel? Grieve it. Talk about it. Yeah, that really stinks that happened to you. It's unfair. Mm-hmm. What do you want to do with that?
That is beautiful and so helpful, because you're right. Once you take that away and work through that, it is just a story.
Our memories are ours. You know, when I do EMDR work, people are like, can you take away this memory? No, memories are yours. Mm-hmm. Those are yours. Nothing can take away those memories, but can we take away the discomfort and the pain? 100%.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And I've dealt with that. I mean, going back to 8th grade, myself, and I dealt with an eating disorder, and I used to not be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
The pain would make my throat close up. I would shake. I couldn't talk about it. I was embarrassed about it. And I should have worked through it in therapy. Somehow I just worked through it on my own. I don't recommend that. It took a lot longer and was really drawn out. But I was able to do it. And then, yes, do I have the memories of that going on? Yeah, but I can talk to my girls about it. I have 4 girls. I can talk to anyone about it and hopefully help people, right, to learn from that and to find help sooner.
Yeah, you know, I tell these women around the table in our betrayal trauma group, I look at them and I say, you guys are so powerful, and you guys are the experts, not me. The knowledge and what you have been through as you share with each other, that's what makes this a powerful support group. It's not me. And as they share those things with each other, the power that is there, and they get to heal, because they start to feel like, so there's purpose in what I went through. Yeah, because man, you're really helping me out. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing. You know, vulnerability is such a key to addressing pornography issue, addiction, shame. We have to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But we're so afraid to be vulnerable because, no, this defines me. I am not enough. No, it doesn't define you.
Absolutely. So I love that. I want to have you explain, because I think the term betrayal trauma is thrown out quite a bit. You know, we see different terms on social media. Can you kind of define, because I think some people think trauma has to always be the biggest thing. You know, my trauma isn't big enough. But can you explain that a little, just for people that aren't familiar with what betrayal trauma is?
You know, betrayal trauma is just when, you know, a simple definition that I would give you is just when, you know, you give your trust to somebody and they have broken it and they've hurt you. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, some people, you know, you want to define, okay, betrayal trauma is I'm in a marriage and my partner had an affair on me. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's certainly that, and those are members of the group. And sometimes it's my partner is looking at pornography. We're happily married, but I'm deeply hurt that my, you know, partner's looking at pornography. Sometimes it's, you know, I was molested or raped by somebody that I trusted. I had a couple session this week, and the wife had an affair 10 years ago, and her husband are working through things. And we were in a couples work and we were talking about that, and he was really struggling with the hurt that he felt. And she said something that was really profound that I think defines betrayal trauma. And as she looked at him, as he was just tears running down his cheek, and she goes, when you married me, you thought I was going to be your safe haven. And I broke that trust, didn't I? Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I started crying because it's like, she gets it. And she understood his betrayal in that moment was, you trusted me to be a safe place for you, a safe haven, and I wasn't. And I am now. And it's okay for you to tell me how you feel. I'm not going anywhere. I will be that safe haven. You're not going to drive me into the arms of another man. I've done my work. I'm here. So, betrayal trauma can really be anything, right? But when the trauma is such that we can't function and we can't trust, and we end up being the porn police, and we're checking in the middle of the night, we're waking up and checking our partner's phones, or the internet, or, when they say, hi, I'm at the gym, at 6 a.m., they get up and drive through the parking lot of the gym to make sure their car's there. That's not okay.
And you're hypervigilant all the time, just worked up. That's so hard.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So I hope I answered that.
You did. So one thing that I want to touch on is, yes, these things happen. And I'm not excusing them. Like, people need to deal with. No, it's not a free pass. But also, I love how you stated what's underneath that, right? Because I know they say, like, pornography isn't about the partner. It's about, it's a coping mechanism.
No.
But how can people have understanding and compassion? Not a free pass. I think this can be misinterpreted.
Absolutely.
But how can you look at maybe ADHD as a factor with that impulsivity, right? Needing dopamine, untreated trauma.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's attachment issues. I don't mind telling my story and using myself, but when my dad died and my mom was unavailable and my brother was, doing his thing, I felt so alone. And Miss July was always there, right? And so for me, it was, okay, I am loved. I do have value. And so for me, yes, it may have come across, that I was looking at your pornography, but it was feeding a void in my life that I didn't understand at all, right? And it was an attachment issue. And so, alcoholics don't drink because they're thirsty, and sex addicts and porn addicts don't act out because they're horny. It looks that way, but you have to get to the deeper issues of distrust or shame or fear of commitment or attachment issues. And you have to get to those underlying things. If you just treat the symptoms, it doesn't go away. You have to dig deep. And so that exploration, the individual that is coming into therapy has to be willing to dig deep and go, okay, what's behind this? Yes, it presents itself as this, but what's the deeper meaning? Is it trauma? Is it I don't love myself? Is it is it a dopamine hit? What is it?
You said that beautifully, and I love that, because a lot of times there's so much, well, not a lot of times, almost 100% of the time there's so much judgment with substance use or any addiction, pornography, sex addiction, and people are disgusted. What a horrible person.
Yeah.
How could they do that? So I love kind of giving a little understanding, look deeper.
Yeah.
I would say it's even, when I worked for Valley Behavioral Health, I had a lot of homeless clients. And I saw some downtown sometimes, and people would make comments like, oh, why can't they just get a job?
Right.
And it makes me emotional because they don't know what's underneath. Like,
Correct.
I would see these patients and they have come from such a hard place.
Yep.
And they're doing the best they have with the skills they have. And again, it's not a free pass, but I also believe, like you said, people that get involved in these maladaptive coping.
Unmet need.
Yeah, there's unmet needs. So if we can approach with understanding, and that's hard. That's not easy. Have had loved ones in my life be involved in pornography, and that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to not just be like, ugh, and close up.
Well, there's such a stigma around it.
There
You know,
is.
it's you know, if, you know, maybe this is unfair, but, you know, if two people stood up, you know, if I stood up in my church and you were in my church and you stood up and said, I've got an eating disorder, and somebody else stood up and said, I'm recovering from alcoholism, you know, I think you can have all kinds of people afterwards come up and hug you and, oh, how can we support you? And if I stand and go, hey, I struggle with pornography and have a sex addiction, I'm going to be pretty alone because of the stigma. We have to stay out of the judgment box, you know, because again, we don't understand and we don't know, you know, what's going on in their lives. They just need love, they need understanding, and they need to know that I'm not defining you by this.
So important. I love how you say that. And I also think, I love that you're willing to talk, because I think so many don't. And if more people did, they would find they're not alone.
Yeah.
And I also feel like people would say me too
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And that would help healing.
Well, it doesn't define me, and
No.
if people want to look at that, look at me and say, and want to define me by that, okay, that's fine. But that's where learning to love yourself, learning to see your own value comes into play. That might sting if you want to judge me that way. It might sting, but I'm not going to give you my personal power.
So good. So good. So when someone does go through or is dealing with trauma or the betrayal trauma, what is the best practice to reduce the replay that makes it go over and over in one's head after trauma? Any tips for that?
Well, I mean, your brain, the replay is because your brain's trying to figure out how to heal, right? It turns into the trauma brain. You know, the brain's trying to protect you. So what happens is, you know, you have a right and a left hemisphere of your brain, and it never talks during the day to each other. And so the trauma will get frozen in one part of your brain, and the brain's trying to resolve the problem, so it just loops into it. So you hyper focus on it. That's part of PTSD. That's going to go away through therapy, but it's not going to go away unless you work on it. And so you have to go in, and that's where the talking about it comes in. Because it's like having a puzzle that's missing pieces, and no matter how many times you try to put that puzzle together, it's still missing the pieces. When you come in and you start talking about that, you find those missing pieces. You connect those dots, and your brain is able to process it and go, oh, here's new information. And then that helps. And then that helps the brain get back to a normal brain. But that looping is just part of the PTSD. And you know, and sometimes that can make you feel like you're going crazy. Sometimes therapists can diagnose that as bipolar. Sometimes they can diagnose it as other stuff when it's just trauma. You know, and trauma can make you feel like your cheese is sliding off your cracker.
Yes, it's true.
You know, and so again, you have to talk about it. And when I have people come in that I can't stop thinking about this over and over and over again, it's talking about it. And it's dealing with whatever the trauma and the tragedy is, because the brain's just trying to protect you. It's just trying to say, okay, let's find the answers so the threat goes away.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because our brains are wired way back to the first humans to scan for danger.
Absolutely.
Right? We are always on high alert.
Yeah.
Sometimes that gets tripped up and it gets stuck in that loop. So yeah, of course it's looking to protect us.
And that's what makes, I think, people get caught up in unhealthy grief, because you know, in grief, when you lose somebody, whether it's tragically or whatever, your brain's just constantly thinking about it.
Replaying it over and over.
And it's like, I got to stop thinking about it. This makes me so mad and so sad. It's like, no, honor it, feel it, sit with it. You know, we call it, at least I call it around here, you got to sit in the suck.
Yeah.
And that is not fun. So sit in it. Just experience it. What does it mean to you to lose that loved one or whatever that trauma is? Sit in it, process it, feel it. You know, that's part of the healing process.
I love that. Sitting in the suck. Definitely.
Oh,
Definitely. So there's individual therapy and there's groups that you've shared about.
Yeah.
So
And couples.
and couples.
Yeah.
So
and we do couples work. Yeah.
I guess you help clients and direct them what is best, or do you recommend individual therapy and a group for most people?
So, you know, the process would be if a couple were to come in, we would assess them, you know, and more than likely, you know, they would need to begin doing their own work individually. Typically partners are pretty upset when you say, listen, you need to do your own therapy. Yeah. They get really mad. I didn't do anything. I just gave them my love. I didn't do anything. I didn't cause this. I didn't ask for this. And now you're telling me I got to go into therapy and I got to do therapy? Yeah, it's unfair. But if you want to heal, that's what you got to do. And so they start working. And then one of the things that we work on with the betrayal person, the addict, is what we call full disclosure. Full disclosure has to have, you can't heal with secrets. And so while they're doing therapy, working through their betrayal and what they've experienced, you know, then I would be doing therapy with the addict to do. Does your partner have full disclosure? No. Okay. Well, we need to work. What is the history? You need to tell me the whole history and work on that history and get them to a point to where they're willing to do full disclosure. Sometimes that takes months.
So you're talking even back to the beginning of when behavior started.
Full disclosure. Okay. Right? And that can be really scary because then you bring them together, you know, knowing that this, you know, let's say they're a married couple and you know, the addict is the husband and the wife is the partner. You know, that's going to be her very worst day. To sit there and hear what he's done, whether it's pornography, whether it's affairs, strip clubs, whatever it is, and things like that. And yeah, it's scary, it's risky because she might hear that and go, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'm out. Yeah. Okay. But at least they've given her the gift to go, now you can go heal because you know everything. Because, of course, she's blaming herself that I wasn't beautiful enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't good enough in bed, I wasn't all these things, it's my fault, right? And so you got to do full disclosure, and it can't be a staggered disclosure because staggered disclosures that's like 1,000 paper cut deaths.
You don't do it in little bits.
No.
You go and full disclosure.
And that's why you're getting the individual to be able to go, it's a one-time thing, and it might be, listen, you do that, you're going to a hotel for the weekend. She's going home or vice versa, just to let the dust settle. And then you start continuing the individual work, but now you can bring the couples work together. Okay. Because now the full disclosure's out, now the healing can begin, you know, and you start to work as the couple. And then, you know, we get, you know, one of the things that we do is I like to send the addict to SA Lifeline. It's a really good support group. They work out of the workbook called Facing the Shadows.
And what does SA stand for?
Sex Anonymous.
Okay.
Facing the Shadows is a workbook that we'll give to the addict. It's by Patrick Carnes, and it's through the CSAC community, and it's a really excellent workbook for anybody that struggles with pornography or, you know, any kind of sex addiction. And it's so easy for them to understand. And it just goes from, you know, denial, consequences through the whole healing space. It's a pretty thick workbook with different assignments. And so they work out of that, and I work out of that with them. And we're just beginning the healing process of getting to the roots and getting to what's going on and addressing relapse issues and addressing trust and what's happening. But again, you can't have that unless there's honesty. I always quote, secrets feed the beast. Yes. And if there's secrets, the beast just continues to get fed and the beast will hijack you, right?
So I'm sitting here thinking, I love that. Secrets feed the beast. So I want to circle back on that and expand on that for those listening that are thinking, well, this is me.
Yeah.
I'm in a bad spot.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like a 18-year-old, you know,
Yeah.
that is feeling horrible or trying to date, and it's complicated.
Yeah.
Just thinking they have these dark areas they feel that are irreparable. So what should they do? They don't know what to do.
It doesn't define them. Be vulnerable. Get help. You know.
And it doesn't have to be, say they're not comfortable going to parents.
They don't have to.
Trust whoever they can share that with.
They don't have to. This is, they can come in and talk and just start the process. And there's so many layers to it. We'll help you figure it out. But there's hope. That darkness that they feel, when that demon overtakes you, and that darkness that you feel is so dark. Mm-hmm. And then when you sit there and commit, and part of that problem is, you promise yourself, or you promise your partner, or you promise God, or you promise whoever, I will never act out again. In those moments, I believe those promises are as sincere as you can get. But then they get hijacked. The addictive part of your brain, the amygdala, hijacks the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex says, I need to go get help. I need to do this. I want help. I want this. The amygdala takes over and hijacks the frontal cortex. Yeah. I call my amygdala Fred. Yeah. Sorry for the Freds out there. But I call mine Fred because I want to know when Fred's talking to me. In the middle of the night, if I wake up and roll over and Fred says, hey, why don't you get up and look at porn? Shut up, Fred. So that fear is going to take over, and that addiction is going to say, you can't.
But that's that talking, right?
Right.
That's Fred in your case talking.
And so they have to come in and just lean into, there is help. Recovery is so much stronger than any addiction. So much stronger than any addiction. And it might be a lifelong battle. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And so they come in and we start peeling it apart and just start doing those things, but it doesn't define them. And those chains can be broken, but that shame and that fear, if I'm 18 or 19 and I'm dating my girlfriend and my girlfriend, well, she asked me if I have a porn problem and I told her no. Well, of course you're going to tell her no. You don't want to lose her.
Right. Scary.
And most young men sit there and go, well, once I get married and I have access to the equipment,
I'm good.
It won't be a problem. No, it is a problem because it's not about sex.
Say that again. It's not
about sex.
It's not about how your partner
Right.
looks.
Drinking is not about being thirsty.
No.
It's not about sex. It's about so many other issues that we have to get to. So that begins that process.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that the people going through that are using hear that, but also the people that are in a relationship or care or in a family, right? Where they might be so disappointed if their father or whoever is involved or a sibling, then it doesn't make them a bad person.
Right. And it's important to find someone that understands addiction, preferably a CSAT. Now, obviously, I'm biased because I'm a CSAT, certified sex and trauma therapist, right?
Yeah.
And you can go on the website or you can just Google CSAT and it'll tell you who are CSATs because they understand both sides. I deal with the addict, but I also deal with the betrayal partners as well.
Which is huge.
And so, but it's, right after this, I'm going to have a phone call with one of our therapists who they're looking at doing a podcast. That's what we're doing. They're looking at doing a disclosure next week, and the one individual, their therapist said, no, don't do disclosure. That's going to cause more pain. Well, her client, the wife, has so many questions and wants to know, and he got really bad therapy of no, don't do that disclosure. And so she reached out to me, what do we do here? And I said, no, disclosure needs to happen. And here's why. And I'm sure he's getting really good therapy, but he's clearly with a therapist that doesn't understand
Which is a problem.
The process. So you have to find a therapist that understands sex addiction and that understands the betrayal piece and how to
Bring it together.
Bring it back together. Because how can this woman heal if she has questions and she's not allowed to ask those questions and get those answers? And of course his fear, which I get, is, but if I tell her everything, what if she leaves me? She might play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's a consequence that might happen. But the best gift that you can give her is healing. Yeah. Let her heal. And as she heals, hopefully she'll make a decision to stay with you.
Yeah, so would that be listed, I mean, like LCSW, you know, whatever, or
yeah.
That would be listed after those letters.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So people know what to look for.
Yeah, so I'm an LCSW and then CSAT,
okay.
you know, and then CMAT, certified multiple in addictions, right? And then EMDR.
Okay.
So, you know, yeah, alphabet soup.
That's how, yes, alphabet soup for sure. So when it's a couple, I just know people are thinking, well, I have a therapist, you know, I'm working.
Right.
And this therapist also does couples work.
Yeah.
So do you ever see, say, the wife, and then you see them for couples, or should both have separate individual? Do you ever see both individuals separately, then bring them together?
Yeah, it all depends.
Okay.
It all depends. You know, it just depends on the situation. Sometimes it's like I'm going to meet with, you know, with the one person, okay, and with everything that's going on, maybe I feel a little too biased to work with the other. Okay.
Yes.
So I have to understand my own biases and go, no, you go get your own therapist. And then sometimes it's okay to go, and you need a couples therapist. And it's not going to be me. And then there's times it's like, you know what? I can work with both of you and do the couples work.
Okay.
And sometimes it might be, you know, I'm here to do this and you can do this therapy. And if you're okay over here, you know, the partner's okay with me doing the couples work, then I'm happy to do the couples work as well. And they can bring that therapist in for that support as well.
Okay.
You know, so it really just kind of depends. It's a personal thing. I have therapists that it's like, no, I never want to mix that. I'm going to be,
and that's what I'm
going to be the couples therapist, or I'm
Yeah.
going to be this, and you know, I think, you know, for me, it's just what are they comfortable with, and what am I comfortable with?
Yeah, that's good, because I have heard therapists say, no, never do this way or that way.
Yeah.
So good to know your
and
whatever people are comfortable with.
Yeah, and then people might be out there that take issue with, well, what's he saying is wrong, and
yeah,
I might be, but it's worked so far.
Yeah, and you're certified in it, so it seems pretty good to me. So another question I had was, for those that trust has been lost, you know, they've experienced the betrayal trauma, say someone's done the disclosure. I mean, I'm sure they feel, I'll never be able to trust this person again.
Yeah.
So what are some tips, and what would you say to them? Besides going to therapy.
That can I trust this individual ever again?
Yeah.
That, you know, trust can be rebuilt, and that it's okay to feel that right now, and you're going to. And so just sit with that. But, you know, what do you need from your partner to be able to trust again?
Yeah.
Or let's say they get divorced, or they break up, and they are single, and they're like, I will never date again. I can never trust another person again. The same question is, when you're ready, what do you need?
And I feel like it circles back to that part where you said process it, you know, go through it, deal with the pain of it all, because it's going to hurt, and then see where you're at then. And it's just, it will become a memory, even though I'm sure it doesn't feel like that.
Trust is a scary thing, right? Because last night, one of the gals in our group, you know, she asked the question, she goes, how do I know my partner is really being sincere and is not looking at porn and is not acting out? And I said, you don't. And it took her away. And I'm like, that is for you to learn how to trust and give your trust to him. You don't need to be the porn police, you don't need, but you don't. There's nothing that I can tell you that here's how you're going to know. The signs are going to be, can you talk to him? Is he defensive? Can you say, hey, I'm really struggling today? And he's like, I'm so sorry that I did this to you. Mm-hmm. What can you do for me? He doesn't get mad and he doesn't look at you and say, hey, when are you done throwing me under the bus and bringing this up?
Yeah.
That, so what are the things that say it feels trusting? And you're just going to have to take a risk eventually to be okay to go, okay, I choose to trust you. And I hope I don't get hurt, and you might.
And golf, that makes me, oops, just touch the microphone. That makes me think of parents also feeling like they need to be the police and how hard that is.
Yeah.
And that's another relationship where you have to regain trust.
Yeah.
In small steps. But wow,
yeah.
that's hard.
Trust is really easy to keep, but when you break it, it's hard to earn. And trust is not demanded. The addict cannot go to the betrayal partner and go, I demand that you give me your trust now. It's been long enough. Yes. Trust is earned. And it's given. It's not demanded.
Yeah. So what a sacred thing to have is trust. So treat it as such. I heard Mike speak at Silicon Slopes. That was so good. And we were trying to find that recording because I would love people to be able to look that up on YouTube, but it's not there yet. So we'll see if we can get it there because he spoke on other topics, but he did bring, we wanted him to bring a poem he shared. So if you don't mind sharing that, just because it was powerful when you shared it.
It's from Winnie the Pooh, and I feel like I have two spirit animals. Either a manatee, because I'm, big and just can float.
I love manatees.
And or Winnie the Pooh, and I've kind of psychoanalyzed over the years all of Winnie the Pooh. Mm-hmm. That Eeyore's depressed and Rabbit is really depressed. He just has irritability as the main one. But anyway, so this is Winnie the Pooh here, and I love this. It says, "Some days," said Pooh, "I don't quite feel like myself. My body's tired and my heart feels heavy, and even getting out of bed feels like a very big adventure. But then I remember it's okay to be slow. It's okay to hurt. And it's even okay to be a little sad sometimes, because being brave doesn't always mean doing something big. Sometimes it just means being yourself, even when it's hard."
Mic drop.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that.
Pooh gets it.
Pooh gets it. that I think a lot of people that will resonate with.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Just to finish off, just because of time, what is one more thing you want people to hear or know? Or something you share often that people just, you can see a light bulb go off?
I'm going to come back that it doesn't define you.
Yeah.
You are worthy of love and belonging. Life is hard, but give yourself some grace and love yourself, and know there's hope. And things can get dark, but you are resilient and you are strong and you are seen. I have so many people that come in that just don't feel seen. That you're seen and you matter.
I love that. Beautiful. And Mike, do you have, I guess the question is, if people want to find you, do you have space in your own
on my own caseload?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I have a waiting list because I'm clinical director.
But do you supervise others? And
oh yeah.
So,
and so if they contact Arcadia Counseling, at 385-236-4500, that's 385-236-4500. Then absolutely we can direct them to some great therapists and start helping.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for
your time and all
letting
your
me be a part of
wisdom.
this.
Yeah, we're grateful.